So I'm going to be your hands, Maya. What are we going to do today?
We're going to launch an agency.
Okay, agency. Wait. Oh, okay. Okay, so the wow moment,
What's
I
the
think,
wow moment in this coffee shop?
well, this is kind of a weird wow moment, but I think that the wow moment is when a customer has a friendly exchange with a barista.
That's a perfectly legit wow moment. So it's about the service level, right?
Yeah, I mean, because I think that a lot of customers form a connection with the person at the shop, and then they feel like, I want to go see that person. I like them,
That's
they're part of
brilliant.
my community. Okay.
That's brilliant. So, with awareness as a part of a marketing and growth hacking funnel, we are actually considering a question: how people learn that Robert's business exists if we would be doing this for Robert. But since we are doing it as a growth hacking agency to find Roberts, we have to ask ourselves how would Robert learn about our
Yeah.
services?
I,
How
I
we
mean,
make Robert aware that we exist?
yeah, I mean, I think that especially with interest-based targeting on the different social media platforms, there are definitely
Mhm.
social media handles that are associated with things that maybe only small business owners would be paying attention to. Um, Yeah, and so I mean, I think that we could look for small business software. We could look for local accounting firms. Like, I don't know, there are certain things that I think that you could use to target that would make sure that it's probably mostly business owners.
Super. And what would like this value proposition be on those ads? Like,
Mm.
how would you trigger their interest?
I think just letting people know what is happening. I think a lot of times they just don't know. If you have like what's the landscape, what's possible, a case study, like you said, I think that type of stuff, just making them aware of what is in the world, I think is good because they know that they're too busy to, learn all the time. Okay, sorry, Maya, I interrupted you on acquisition.
No, come on, it's a brainstorming session. It's not a lecture. We
Okay,
are both actively co-creating this together.
okay, cool.
Cool. For acquisition. So after we will be able to attract Roberts with these amazing awareness triggers that we just stated down to an actual landing page or our social media profile, how will we make them trust us or provide them enough value for them to feel comfortable to leave us their email or to apply for, let's say, a free coaching or whatever we will offer? Usually, in this stage, we are using techniques such as a white paper, which is a weird French translation for ebook. So to give them a sort of content, we can invite them for a webinar. We can introduce a newsletter and promise that they will get a useful weekly tips. Then we have can send them to a specially targeted landing pages that solve their specific problem. We can create quizzes, exit pop-ups, or just play around with content marketing a little bit to then at the end capture their email. So we have been discussing some of those techniques already when we were brainstorming for awareness. But for acquisition, do we have, aha, you already put some things down. Could you explain them?
I was taking notes. I mean,
Uh-huh.
okay, so the thing that I added was social proof. I
In,
think that
in terms of testimonials
yeah,
or
testimonials. Um, yeah, and of course, there are some social media platforms where you could say, "Hey, did you know that your friend who's a business owner likes this agency?" Um, and then ebook, webinar, newsletter, quizzes. I think that's all great. Um, yeah, so I just was writing down what you said as you went there.
would you be willing to do a free consultation with Robert? Could Robert apply for a 15-minute or a 30-minute talk?
Yeah, I think that that's worth it. For me, I would think about the service design of that. If I was doing that as an
Uh-huh.
agency, like maybe you were talking about onboarding and setup and building community. So I think maybe if it were me, I would be looking at something like, can I talk to one of your baristas? Can I can I look at who your community?
We were very successful in covering this one.
Okay, so now we're at activation.
Now we're at activation, and we will actually talk about onboarding, which you are trying to do this before twice. So you must be very passionate about this. Activation is about making sure that users have a great first experience with our product, which, Davis, again, is not coffee, but with a service, so that we convince them that it's a right decision for them to work with us. So some of the techniques that we are doing here are these traditional sales. So we would invite them for a meeting. We can also have some tutorials. We invest in customer support. So we onboard them on chat or something like that. And we can also send them like drip campaigns. For example, if we would just capture his email and would still have to win his trust before coming to a meeting. So do you think that onboarding is complex with Roberts?
I think that personally, I put the NUX here with a big bunch of things, the new user experience, which you guys have learned in the course. And I think it's probably the most essential part, of all this stuff, in my opinion, because it's going to predict whether or not you have success here. And then it's also going to, if you do it right, give you tons of data that you can use. So I focused a ton of energy on the new user experience and, for those of you in the 8-Step Business Launch, service design.
You're totally right. From what I see from software companies, their week one retention is anywhere between 10 and 20%. So basically what is going on is they're using 80 or 90% of customers within first week, which is terrible. And this is everything has to do with new user experience and just like onboarding them to really understand the product. Super.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Are we ready to move to retention, Maya, or do you want to still spend some?
Totally.
Okay, retention.
No, totally ready to do that. So in activation, just to conclude, I think that was like a brilliant way how to conclude this funnel. So in activation, we wanted to make sure that Robert has a great experience with us, so that we either meet him in person and he likes us, or we do some good work for him and prove this with result, or just like be able to get to the next meeting where we can actually plan what we will do together. So after we performed for the first time and win Robert's trust, how could we be worthy of having Robert's retainer?
Okay, well, we break this up into a few different in the class. We do, basically immediate, short, or immediate, middle term, and then long-term retention. But are we only looking at immediate retention, Maya?
So I would again connect this with the nature of a business. So usually as an agency, we would be proclaimed towards selling monthly retainers, right? Because that would be good for our predicted revenue flow. So you could sit with their social media manager and just like brainstorm for a half an hour over a cup of coffee, and just like say that this is not included in your price, but you're totally happy to do that because she's doing such an amazing job and you're eager to share this experience, your experience with her.
Perfect. Are we ready to move to referral, or do you want to stick here on retention?
Totally. Totally. Hey, we were at Swag before. So if you make people wear your branded t-shirts or use like branded cups or whatever, you're doing referral, like they're doing referral for you without asking them. So it's either really again, or to maybe give them some notebooks or whatever. Again, funnily, but these things work. It's incredible that you brought it up. It's rarely the case. But let's be more professional now. So after Robert trusts us and we build this relationship with him, he would probably be excited to tell his friends who are also business owners, not necessarily competitors, right? To try our services as well.
I have an idea.
Yeah?
Okay, see, this is fun, Maya. I have an idea. Okay, so especially in the world of social media, you get a lot of value from sharing audiences. Yep. So you could have a whole initiative about pairing Robert up with his similar partners and then you're calling the partner and saying, hey, I work with Robert, and we know that like cross posting or sharing audiences is really effective. And they're like, oh yeah, great. And then because they're going to get more audience, and then before long you're in a sales conversation with them.
Brilliant. So if Robert, for example, is targeting on freelancers, you could maybe easily come to to talk to a co-working space as well, or not?
Oh, you mean at the coffee shop or at a different place?
No, at a different space, so that you would do a cross promotion. So, okay, you are using this co-working 3 times a week. Where do you work? Otherwise, come to this coffee shop, for example, or some community. Like, how would that work? Could we? The best thing that we can do is to provide examples.
So like maybe for example you do a whole community. Maybe you focus a lot on free product from your clients to help them promote their services, but obviously you're the one that's doing it. So for example, if you were to have a program taking free coffee to a co-working space, then you're representing your client and you're getting referrals, something like that.
Nice. Nice. Or they could like maybe work with startups who does like some energy bars, and
Mm.
Robert would like place samples to their coffee.
So now are we ready to go to revenue, or should we stick
Yes,
on
yes.
referral?
Now will show me the money.
Show me the money. Okay.
Okay, of course. So in our sell, first of all, get the first money and then upsells and cross sells. So we are discussing pricing, business models, as well as like techniques, how to make sure that we get the highest possible LTV out of a client.
So I'll put down pricing and LTV. Do you want me to put anything else down in this section as like kind of
No,
headers?
no, that's okay. Like I think that they are good headers. So for the business model, we first said, and we already discussed a monthly retainer.
Hmm. I mean, it seems like, obviously you can give discounts for a yearly contract.
Yes, that's a good one.
I mean, another thing, especially if you were to use something like lead pages, obviously you can, if this grows big enough, you can get some affiliate revenue.
Yes, affiliate revenue from softwares and let's say your suppliers that you are bringing your business into.
Well, like
Um,
for ads, like a lot of papers will split. They'll give you a commission when you bring them a bunch of ads, right? Yeah, reward loyalty. Okay, cool. Um,
what I have, sorry, maybe it's an interruption, but a lot of like growth agency, at least here in Europe, they eventually launch software as well. So, for example, what Savas did in Greece, he started with a growth hacking agency, and right now he launched the affiliate, the viral slash referral platform, Viral Loops for e-commerce, because he got so many demands from clients to build these things that they just like decided to launch a special program to do that. And we will do an interview with him in this course. It's going to be super interesting, but practically because he got so many repetitive business in one section, he managed to build a software out of this.
yeah, and I mean, one thing that I see, and I don't, I hope you could do if these people become trusted partners, there's a lot of opportunities
Yeah.
for maybe they become an investor in the company, something like this. Like there are some ways that you can do that stuff. So I think on the
No, but I
LTV,
was
yeah.
that's a good one, but I was like more thinking in this software, in terms of automation, because as a service-based agencies, you and I are right now limited by the number of hours that we can sell, and that's never a good thing. So in a long term, you would like to automate some things or sell them as a service blocks, right?
Okay,
So
cool.
you would
Yep.
be agency as a servicing in terms of business models.
Okay, cool. Cool. Got it. Yep. Um, yeah, I think that looks pretty good. Do you see any gaps, Maya? Is there anything I missed?
I love it. I seriously love it.
All right, Maya.
Yeah,
Well, then
I have this exercise as well. This was so fun.